Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to Agree to Disagree with Iesha G. And today we have another guest. I'll start by allowing our guest to introduce herself and we'll get right into the interview. Guest, go ahead.
I am Jasmin Grant. How y'all doing? I don't really know what you want me to say. 28 from Houston, south side of A-Leaf, born and raised. And I'm here to see what's going on. I'm excited.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for, allowing me to interview you. I'm also excited. And so you mentioned that you are Jasmine. You're from Southwest Houston. And do you have any children? Married?
I'm married for how long now? Almost 8 years. I have two kids.
8 years. That's what's up. Personally, don't know a lot about you, so I'm really asking these questions like genuinely. So you grew up on Southwest Houston. Like, what do you do now?
What I do now, so right now I work at a career center. I actually work for workforce. I help people in the community. I help them get jobs. I help them with community resources, things like that. I am from A-Leaf. I grew up in A-Leaf. I grew up on Slice Lane. I graduated from LSIC in 2011. So I've been on the west side of Houston my whole life, really, pretty much.
If money wasn't an object, what would you do? What's your passion? What are your dreams, your aspirations?
Honestly, I would still be doing about the same thing. I really enjoy helping the community outreach. Me and my husband, we haven't got all our paperwork together and everything yet, but we have launched a nonprofit called the Grant Relief Foundation, and we go out into the less fortunate areas of Houston, and we donate items to the people who need them. You know, like toiletry items, things like that. We don't have the right licenses to give out food and things like that, and we don't want to get anybody in trouble. We don't want to get in trouble, but we do pass out toiletry items, sanitizer, things that women might need, certain things that men might need. So we do that. We've done that a few times. We haven't gotten to do it this year just yet, but we're working on an event right now.
So what makes you want to, I know you said that you help people get jobs and you give away toiletry items and things that people need. What has happened that makes you feel like this is the right thing for me to do or for my family to do?
I come from the less fortunate community. I didn't grow up with the best. I definitely didn't have the best. My mom, I was the youngest of six, but it was really just me and my mom for a long time. My mom struggled with a lot of things financially. We ourselves had to use community resources. We had to use churches, food banks, things like that. And a lot of times growing up, I was in the same position as some of these people who might be downtown, you know what I mean? Nowhere to go, things like that. So to be able now to be blessed enough to, have my life together enough to have a good job, to take care of my kids and my family, I want to be able to, put that back into the community as well. Cause I know what it's like to need something. And I also know what it feels like to have somebody come at that time of need and bring that to you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy to do that for people because I know what that feels like.
You say you know what it feels like. You kind of came from the less fortunate community. Can you give us a little backstory about like childhood, how that was for you, siblings, parents? Give me a background of Lil Jasmine.
That's a whole lot of background. But basically, like I said, I was the youngest of six. It was just me and my mom for a long time. My mom was a heavy drug addict. She struggled with crack and pills and things like that for quite some time. And me being her sixth child, she was pretty deep into it, and I saw a lot of it. I grew up in the trap houses, crack houses. I grew up on the street. Uh, you know, Always with my mom, but I was definitely exposed to that. I was in that quite often, and that's another reason I say earlier I'm just so blessed to be in this position now because there was a lot of things, a lot of positions I was in that some people didn't make it out of. You know what I mean? That I could have not made it out of. You know what I'm saying? So no, that's just me. That's what I come from. I have to grow up really fast. Uh, and I've been working since I was 16, 15. I was working since I was 15. Um, nonstop, nonstop. Two jobs, because I never wanted to be in the position that my mother was in. or that she put me in. And so I want better for my kids. So I've always been grinding nonstop because I don't want to, people who come from backgrounds like that, you know what I'm saying? They can choose their path. They're either going to follow something of the same or they're going to do their best to be the opposite. And that's my goal. I'm striving to be the opposite. And so far, I'm doing pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Even though I was in the streets, even though things were hard, my mom still took care of me in those situations. You know what I'm saying? Even if it was a syrup sandwich, I had something to eat. You know what I'm saying? I was eating something. And even those times that I didn't have nothing to eat, I made sure I went to school so I can get something to eat. She made sure I was out the door so I could be at school so I'll have a meal that day. So like even though it's it's kind of weird, a lot of people would be like, "Oh my God, that was terrible. She was a terrible person," but at the same time, she still made sure I was taken care of in those situations.
I mean, I understand what you're saying because sometimes, like especially as children, sometimes we don't understand the things, we don't really get all the sacrifices and stuff that our parents like go through to make sure that we are good. But I mean, in the end, you can look back and be like, okay, they did what they knew to do. They did
Yeah.
what they thought was best at the time. Me personally, I was adopted as a baby, about 3 months old. But
Mm-hmm.
my biological mother, she was the same as your mom, on drugs real bad. She wasn't stable. She really didn't have a place. So I have older siblings, and my older siblings were already living with family or with other people, and she just wasn't in that place to have kids. She gave us to other people to take care of. And I mean, as a child, I really didn't understand that. But as an adult, I'm like, I can respect that because you gave, it wasn't the fact that you didn't want us. You understood that, you're not in that place in order to do what you need to do. Parents have to do what they have to do. You said that you worked from like 15, 16 years old to make sure that you would not be in that situation and make sure you always have
Mm-hmm.
food and all of that. 15 to 16 years old, as an adult, I'm looking like we were kids. We probably didn't feel like kids, but we were kids at that time.
Right.
Do you feel as though a 15 and 16-year-old should be working? I mean, do you feel like it gives them responsibility, or do you feel like they should kind of focus more on school unless they have to? What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is definitely, unless, I mean, if you don't have to, you know what I'm saying, stay in school. Get that, at least the high school part, get that part out the way. I know a lot of kids coming working at workforce and working at a career center. I see a lot of kids who come in and they say things like, I want a part-time job just so I can have some money in my pocket. I don't need to. I just want something to do. I want to learn something. I want to get some skills. I want some money. Okay, cool. That's fine. Um, but for children who have to work and they don't really have a choice, you know what I'm saying? I see where that plays in, but I feel like if you don't have to, unless it's just something that you want to do to put a little extra in your pocket, then I wouldn't recommend it. If I could have waited, because I didn't finish high school.
Mm.
I didn't finish high school because my mother had all her stuff going on. She also had a lot of health problems, a lot of health issues. So when I was working, I'm working trying to help her pay a bill. Because like I said, I am the youngest of six, but it was just me and her probably since I was 11. It has been just me and my mom. Her and my dad divorced and all that. So it was just me and her. So I was working because I needed to work. I needed to pay some bills. And I was really stubborn. So when, the day she was sick and things like that, I'm like, I'm not going to school. I'm not going to leave you here by yourself. So because of that, and because I had to go to work and things like that, I didn't finish. I got almost to the end. I got to 11th grade and I couldn't finish. So I ended up, I did get my diploma. I ended up getting my GED probably like the next year after that, just so I could have that. Um, but all my counselors used to be so upset because was very smart. All my grades and everything was always good. And they always told me the same thing. They're like, you're outstanding when you're here, but you haven't been here. So let's try to explore some other options because they knew my home situation as well. So they actually helped me find a program to help me get my GED. So I wouldn't have to struggle trying to finish my senior year. So if you can finish without having to do all that, I'm definitely for the finish side. Go finish and at least finish high school.
You're actually the second guest that I interviewed today that said that they didn't finish high school and they had to go after high school and finish it up. So my question to you is, as a 16, 17-year-old, you know, you're working hard, you're trying to provide for yourself, for your family. Okay, so you have to drop out of school and you couldn't finish. How do you feel? Like, what's going through your mind? Did you ever think like, dang, this is probably not a good thing? Like, you know, I should probably finish school because I might not get a job later. Like, what was your mindset when you realized that you had to drop out of school or you wasn't going to be able to finish? What were you thinking at that time?
I was a little bothered. Honestly, I never really cared for school. I didn't like the setting. I was always, not to sound like big headed or anything, but I was always pretty advanced in my classes and things like that. So I would be in there and like, oh, okay, I got it. And then I get it and everyone else still working on it. And I'm like, okay, I'm bored. I don't want to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave. Or it would just be my mom, you know, so I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be there. So it did make me feel away. But as I got older, you know, like you said, as an adult, you kind of realize that some things you have to make those decisions for the best. And I do feel like what I did was for the best, honestly. Even though I wasn't okay with it, I do feel like it was for the best. I feel like that was what was for me at that time. I'm a headed believer and everything happens for a reason. And so I really feel like it was a reason I wasn't able to finish. And it wasn't too long after that I lost my mom. So, you know, I kind of feel like that fell into it. I felt like that fell into it, like, this is some extra time that you need to have with her. You know, so I as I got older, I kind of felt like it had a reason for it. So that was a
So
long answer, but yeah.
yeah, no, I feel you. I understand you. So, me knowing your husband, I know that he lost his mom as well. So that's something that you guys both share together. It's always easier going through something when you have somebody who understands. They've been there. They've been there firsthand. So how was that with y'all?
So that is definitely one of our big connection points. We were both really young. When I say I lost my mom right after I finished everything, like literally, like the day I had my graduation ceremony, she went to the hospital and I lost her, I think, a week and a half later. So we've literally been there with each other through everything. So that is a big point. So my mom was May of 2012. His mom was September of 2012. So we lost them both in the same year. You know, both of our moms had their issues. His mother was sick as well. So we lost our moms in the same year. Both of our moms' birthdays are in March, like days apart. So we connect on that point a lot. We oftentimes sit down and have our emotional moments, especially in the month of March. It's not easy for either of us. So it definitely, you know, it brings us closer in certain aspects. It's a big point of connection for us, but also sometimes it gets in the way sometimes because it'll be like, you know, the day will go on and I'll start feeling sad about something and then he'll start feeling sad about something. And all of a sudden we at each other's heads because we both feel in a way. You know what I'm saying? Then we gotta come back to it like, okay, you think about your mom, ain't you? And he's like, yeah, you think about yours, ain't you? And I'm like, yeah. So it goes both ways, but you know, it's definitely a huge point of connect for us. Extremely valuable to us, that connection.
My biological mother also passed away. I think I was like maybe like 11, 12 or whatever. But I mean, I would never lived with her, so I really didn't know her like that. But after I graduated high school, like the mother figure that I did have, like that went away. Like I didn't have anything else. And people always wonder, like, how do you make it without like a mother? Like you're supposed to, you know, you want that there and you're supposed to have that. And the reality is that a lot of us don't have that, but we have to keep going. So my question to you is, how do you keep going without having that mother figure there? Or do you have a mother figure there? Or if not, how do you figure everything out on your own?
Oh my goodness. Trial and error. A long time after I lost my mom, I went to my dad. Me and my dad, we didn't have the greatest relationship until after my mom passed, because that's when I really realized, like, man, like this can happen at any time. So after I lost her, I got a lot of my guidance from my dad. So now without my dad either, and I'm also a parent now. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. It's kind of just like not a shot in the dark, but sometimes it's just a shot in the dark. It's trying things and see what works, see what doesn't. I might ask my I do have a stepmom. My husband did remarry after my mom, so we have a decent relationship. I might ask her a question. Um, I might go to Chris's dad and ask him a question. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of just we just kind of figure it out. And I mean, honestly, I had that relationship with my mom. So I don't think I ever really dealt with it. So when you say, how do you get through without her? I literally just keep going. And I pray a lot. So that's how I get through. I just keep going.
So after your mom passed when you were younger,
Mhm.
you had it sounds like you had, you still have had a support system, to help you through it or to help you out with it. How did
Not
not really? What'd you say?
no, not really.
Why
No,
do you
not really. I'm the youngest of six of my moms, and my father had four. So I'm the youngest of a whole bunch of them. Um, but we never had a close relationship. I didn't grow up in a tight knit family home. It was a lot of stress. There was a lot of argument. There was a lot of so there were six of us between three different dads. So my oldest brother, um, he didn't live with us. He never lived with us. But the middle four and myself, we stayed with our mom and our parents the most. But towards the end of everything, like I said, when I got older, probably 11 or 12 or whatever, it was just me and my mom. Because of my mom's issues, I guess, and like my siblings had issues with my dad, when my mom left their dad, and it was just always tension. So we never really clicked. Um, Even in our adult years, like I keep in contact with my oldest brother. We're cool, but my second oldest brother, and then like my other siblings, we don't really connect. So when my mom died, it was just us. Like I had just turned 18. I had just turned 18 in March, and she passed away in May. So it was just me and her. Um, she was behind on rent already, so we were already getting evicted, and I didn't have anyone. Um, my dad ended up getting sick as well. My dad had Lou Gehrig's disease, he had ALS, so he wasn't. So wasp right there, sorry. So he wasn't working at the time, so he really couldn't support me either. Just to be straight with you, so when she passed away, she did have a best friend, and her best friend actually helped me with the deposit to get an apartment. And I got like a little efficiency apartment back in A-Leaf, where I'm familiar with. And she helped me get the deposit for that. And then I started a job at Denny's, and then it's been nonstop from there. I hustled myself. I paid for my apartment. I had my own car. I was trying to go to school, things like that. So I didn't have a support system when she passed. Chris was my support system. And so
Okay.
that's why I say that's a big connection point for us, because I didn't, even though I had that many siblings, I was always by myself.
So at what point did you and Chris meet?
I met Chris when I was 14. We met actually right after my mom had got out of jail, and my sister put us in an apartment over off of Forum in Bissonnette. She put us in an apartment over there. And Chris's dad, his dad's a pastor. So his dad, he had a church actually in that strip center right there. And like I said, we just moved. We needed some food. We didn't really have any clothes, things like that. And his dad was holding a food pantry. And we went to the food pantry one Sunday. I think it was a Saturday. We went to the food pantry, and like the rest is history. Like I've been in their family ever since. But it's so funny because I hated Chris when I met him. Like, he was such an asshole. I hated him. I was like, Mom, do we have to go to church? Like, I don't want to go to church because he's such a jerk. Like, I didn't want to go. And then we ended up, my mom was like, no, you're going to go to church. So we ended up going to church every Sunday. We go into the food pantries. We're doing the outreach things together. And me and him just ended up being best friends. And then it went from there. So that's how we met. It was a church origin story.
Wow. Okay. I mean, how many years of marriage and when did y'all have your first child? Or is your first child is together or no? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we had both of our kids are together. We had our daughter after we got married. So we've been best friends. I met him when I was 14. We started dating when I was 16, and we got married when I was 21. We got married in 2015. So we've been together since 2010, and we got married in 2015. Our daughter was born in 2016,
Okay.
and then our son was born in 2020.
So you said earlier that you really don't come from like a close-knit family and
Mm-mm.
you didn't really know too much of that. How do someone that really don't come from a close-knit family and don't really know like too much, love, like for real, um, meet someone and start a life and have kids and be together and with them for so long? Do you ever feel as though some like where you come from or the way you were raised or your background, does it ever show up in who you are today, or is that something that you kind of left behind?
What do you mean as far as show up?
I
Like
mean,
in
like,
general?
well, I mean, me personally, I mean, just from what you told me, you said that, you kind of, your upbringing was kind of rough. You had siblings, but not for real. I mean, it
Right.
wasn't there. And so, y'all really wasn't close knit. So you come from somewhere that's really not close knit. And then you
Mhm.
meet somebody, y'all fall in love, and now y'all got all this love.
Mhm.
Is that like was it like a shock, or did you have to teach yourself how to, love, or did
Mhm.
you understand my question?
Okay, I got you. Yeah. So him and his family actually taught me a lot of that. Because I didn't come from that, and because we were together at such a young age, I was still learning things like that. So when he would, hit me up like, "Hey, we going to a family reunion. I want you to go." I'm like, "Oh, what? What is that? Like, people really do those things, So I'm like, "That's okay. Yeah, let's do it." So, you know, and then like after family reunions or at these gatherings, they would do things that I had never experienced before, and I would be surprised, and he would be like, "Really, you've never done that?" So, like, he's taught me a lot of that. So I think not so much of a shock because, like I said, I was so young, I was still learning anyway. So I think right now, in this particular day and time, I'm still learning. There are a lot of things, that don't go the right way, and I will admit that sometimes it's because I'm not used to it, or I might feel a certain way about what's going on because it's not something that I'm used to. So even though we've been together so long, I'm still learning things about how to love, about how to make my family tight knit, how to let them come from what he experienced versus what I experienced as far as the family portion, if that
Um,
makes sense.
it does make sense. I feel like I can relate to that because I'm also married and my husband, I know what love is. I know how, it feels to be motivated and to be believed in and stuff like that. Him, on the other
Mm-hmm.
hand, it's a little different. Like, when we met, he had never been to a wedding. We went to our first wedding together. He was like, I've never been to a wedding before. I'm like, you 25 years old, you ain't never been to a wedding. To me, that's little stuff. Like, weddings.
Yeah, and see, that's the opposite.
But for him, he was like, I ain't never been to no wedding. I don't know what it is or nothing. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that people, didn't know what weddings were and hadn't been to weddings because they're so normal. I teach him things and he teach me things. So, it works. So my next
Mm-hmm.
question is, you said that you y'all kind of, you got a lot of, he taught you a lot of love and stuff. So is that something that you guys try to, make sure you incorporate in your household, like, make sure that they come from a loving family because of the way that you guys grew up or whatever?
We definitely try. It's not easy. It's not easy. The gentle parenting and things like that. It's not an easy thing to do. But like I said, I mean, we're still learning. We're still learning. My children, they definitely know their love. They definitely know they come from a loved home. They definitely know, anything they need, they get it from us. They get reprimanded like any other children do, when they're acting up or however, hollered at or something. I yell a lot. I don't like to yell a lot, but I do, ironically enough. I'm working on that. But they definitely know their love. Like my daughter, every day before she goes to school, we have a little speech. I asked her, I said, "What are you?" And she tells me, "Mom, I'm a beautiful Black girl." I said, "All right." I said, "Are you a superstar?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Are you awesome?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, good, go." I said, "Go be a good person, go be great, go learn some stuff, go." And I tell her lately, I tell her, "Your hair is a crown, go wear your crown." So, stuff like that she hears every day. So my children are definitely uplifted. They definitely know their love, you know. So I think, like I said, we're not perfect, but I definitely think we make a huge effort of incorporating that into their lives.
I'm sure y'all do a great job at that. A few more questions and then we're gonna be done. So why do you think it's important for you to tell your daughter this before she leaves the house every day? How do you think that this affects her on her life? I mean, her day at school,
Mm-hmm.
what how her mindset, how do you think that those things affect her?
Children are two things, if nothing else. They are easily influenced and they are cruel. Um, I don't, my daughter, she's extremely emotional. She's very sensitive, so I like to put those things into her mind to let her know it doesn't matter what somebody else says about you. You don't have to listen to that kid over there who called you ugly or that called your hair nappy because you know that that's not the truth. You know that you're a queen. You know that you're beautiful. You know that your hair is a crown. So it doesn't matter what they're saying. They just jealous. You know what I mean? Or they just mad. You don't have to worry about them. So putting those positive things in her head and starting her day off in a positive manner is important for me because I feel like that helps her let the negative stuff roll off and it doesn't even affect her. So she'll come home and tell me, "Mama, this boy called me ugly at lunch today. I don't even care. I told him, boy, you ugly too." And I walked away. you
Okay.
know, and I'm like, okay, good. Well, that's exactly what you need because that doesn't matter what he said. And she's like, "Yeah, but it don't matter because his opinion don't matter." And I said, exactly. And I feel like letting her know that in the daytime, in the morning time, hey, you're a beautiful queen. You don't have to worry about what these people are saying. That puts a big help on her attitude and her self confidence, and that's what she needs. Because
And
these
I
kids these days are crazy.
Very crazy. And I think that she'll always remember that too. Like since you're doing it while she's so young, that's something that she'll never
Mm.
forget. She'll always know she's beautiful and she'll always know that, so that's good. So, my last question before I let you go, I want to know, if you could give advice to anybody who is or was in your situation, like, growing up with parents who were maybe on drugs or couldn't give you the best. You had to fend for yourself, go, find jobs, and mother
Hmm.
passed away. You could give advice to someone who was exactly like you. What would you say to them?
Don't let it break you. Um, there's been a lot of times where I wanted to give up because I just kind of felt like maybe it'd just be easier to do it the way she did it. You know what I mean? But if you don't give up and you keep going and you strive to have the things that you wanted or that peace that you wanted, you can get there. And a lot of times it seems impossible, but that's what it's supposed to seem like. The enemy, they want you to feel like you're not going to be able to do it. So that's why you got to keep going. That's why you got to break through. That's why you got to break those curses. If you really want a better you got to keep going. You can't give up. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's really the truth. Like you cannot stop. You have to go. You have to keep going.
I feel you because, um, I mean, you honestly, like, as bad as it sounds, it's when you don't have no parents and you don't have nobody to fall back on, like, you literally don't have no choice. Like people ask me,
Right.
how do you know, how you do this, how you do that, and I'm like, y'all, I don't have no choice. Like y'all might be able to, if y'all fall behind on rent or something, y'all might be able to call y'all parents like, hey, can you loan me some money? Can you do this? Can you buy me a car? I don't have that. I can't do that. Like I
Mm-hmm.
would love to. People that can, they are blessed, but I don't have that. So people like me and you, we have to just keep going. So I think that advice was great. With that being said, I do want to thank you again for being a guest on my show, Agree to Disagree with Iesha G. And I'll give you one last chance to tell the people who you are. And if you want them to follow you on any platforms or whatever, let them know, and then we'll get out of here.
All right. Same thing. So now y'all know a little bit about Big Jazz from A-Leaf. Y'all can follow me on Instagram, Big Bad Jazz _. I'm on Twitter at Bad Jazz, BADDDDJAS. So y'all follow me if you like to. Y'all got questions, hit my DMs. That's about it.
All righty. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for being a guest. And we'll talk next time, okay?
All right, cool. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
You too.